Ms. Lakshmi to present her book and welcome her. As Sir mentioned in his welcome address, she is also joined hands with her husband. We all are happy to have you here, ma'am. Thank you. And also, I would like to extend warm welcome to Dr. H.K. Maki. I can say he is our old alumnus because he did his MPhil under Haraprasad sir, and he is heading the Department of Biotechnology at Chikmagalur IDHD College. I extend a warm welcome to you, sir. I request our HOD to present him about it. Thank you, sir, for joining all the way from Chikmagalur. Now I would like to invite Mr. Suhas to continue with the lecture.
Welcome everybody after the tea break. I hope nobody would sleep after the tea break. So let's understand, why we are here. We are here to understand the use of nanotechnology in agriculture. Agriculture, how many of you know Kannada? Okay, majority of them. Some of them I couldn't see raising their hands. Okay. So in between, you could speak in Kannada. That's okay, right? Okay. So why we are here is to understand the application of nanotechnology in the field of agriculture. I am not a researcher and I don't claim to be an expert on this. But my perspective of nanotechnology comes from the industry perspective, from the farmer's perspective. And that is the ultimate user, end user. And if we develop any technology without keeping the end user in mind, then that technology won't go that far. When the current dispensation at center, they told about digital India, a lot of people mock them. But now today every street vendor has some sort of a digital payment. That's a revolution that has come by in 3 years, and I could see that happening in other countries, developed nations. You go to Europe, it is not as prevalent as it is prevalent in India. US is still far lagging behind in digital payments. So that's the kind of technology, nanotechnology to be, if they have to address the farmers and if it has to go forward. So before going into nanotechnology, why nanotechnology is a question. If you don't have something superior, you will still be using the existing technology, sometimes redundant technologies. So before we go, we'll understand the soils of India. Not a big this thing because that's a lifetime topic. Soils of India, soils of Mysore itself is a lifetime topic. But let's just get an overview of soils of India. So this is a very generic picture that would say the agriculture in India in the past 2 or 3 decades. I think a lot of kids are from the 2000, millennials so called. We are from the 90s. So before we had only one Doordarshan channel. So before that they used to show something like this with the background music saying that we should apply chemical fertilizer to increase the yield. So most of the times it would be urea that was depicted. So this was back then, and nobody realized what it would do in coming decades. So declining fertilizer response in India. So this is the report that goes to the Prime Minister of India, and this is the data that is given by the Agriculture Ministry or the ICAR. So you could see in 1970s or late 60s, the fertilizer response was, if you put about 1 kg of fertilizers, you would harvest about 13.5 kgs of grains. So coming back to 2000, that is 4 decades, almost 3 decades, with lakhs and lakhs of tons of fertilizers in India, with micronutrients going in a smaller quantity at that time. The fertilizer response was 3.7. That means your chemical agriculture has destroyed our soils. So it's in a very simple one graph. So you had 13 point, you put 1 kg of fertilizers, you harvest 13.5 kgs. and at that time the fertilizer cost was less. So coming to 2000, you have 3.7 kgs of grains for every kg of fertilizers, and at the same time the fertilizer cost has gone up. So how the farmer could sustain? So when everybody talks about doubling the income of farmers and all, these input costs also has to be taken care of. Without which, the doubling of income or increasing the income of farmers wouldn't be, wouldn't come by. So this is again a contrary data for the first graph that I have shown. In 1950s, we had only nitrogen deficiency in our soils. Only nitrogen. You put urea, you get your crop. But coming back to 2000, you have pretty much all the deficiencies. You could see you have nitrogen, iron, phosphorus, zinc, potassium, sulfur, manganese, and boron. And they have the data until 2000. So now it could, the question mark would say that we have more nutrient deficiencies. So what has happened to our soils even after putting so much of chemicals? One, it has destroyed the microbes in the soil, which would contribute to the fertility of the soil. And because of the indiscriminate use, we have polluted our environment also. And we have suffered severe foreign exchange depletion, reserves depletion, because you might not be knowing that India doesn't have high quality phosphorus fertilizers. So everything has to be imported from Middle East, Jordan, Tunisia, and all those things. So Middle East, as you know, is not a very politically stable entity. So you getting your phosphorus from fertilizers from a geographically unstable state is always a challenge. So we are importing a lot of this. So there goes our foreign exchange. So this is a very complex problem. So what to do about this? So that's where probably nanotechnology holds part of the answer. I wouldn't believe that it would be a complete answer because that's a big topic in itself. So nano fertilizer, we are going to touch this generic, I would say, because as I said earlier, I am not an expert on this. My interest comes from the usage part, from the industry part, where the industry is going, how nanotechnology is being taken up by the farmers. So as the registrar sir had told, anything between 1 and 100 nanometers is considered to be a nanoparticle. So we take up a meter of substance, chop it up a billion times, you get your nanoparticle. If that nanoparticle take care of your fertilizing activity in your soil, that's called a nano fertilizer. That's a very brief description. So to put it in perspective, a bacterial cell, a typical bacterial cell would be 1,000 times larger, that is 1 micron. If you put a virus cell, that would probably be 100 micron, 100 nanometers, 100 nm. So it's a very small size particles. When you have really small tiny particles, their behavior, physical, chemical and biological behavior also changes. The factors the forces that govern them also changes. So this whole idea of nanotechnology is how to handle particles at really small sizes. So nano fertilizers or nanotechnology in agriculture is a recently new phenomenon. Previously, other industries like electronics industries, semiconductor industries have reaped the benefit. Pharmaceuticals have reaped the benefits of nanotechnology in a big way. Otherwise, your mobile phones in the 90s would look like ancient walkie-talkies. They used to weigh about a kg. Now you have a world in your this thing with about 150 grams. So that has nanotechnology going into it. So why nano fertilizers? That's the important question. That's why the industry has to answer. One, high nutrient efficiency. If you take any macronutrient, and let me just get it straight. How many of you know how many nutrients a plant needs? Macronutrients, primary elements. Please raise your hands. If you don't know, tell me I don't know. I'll just give a brief background. So for a plant to survive, there are 16 elements, around about 16 major elements that is required. Overall, if you take it is about 75, 76 elements. So the primary elements are oxygen, hydrogen and carbon. which you get from your photosynthesis. So you don't have to supplement these three things. It is available from the nature. The other parts, NPK, they are called macronutrients because that is required in a higher quantity. So nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. So the secondary elements are your magnesium, calcium and sulfur. So these are required in a lesser quantity. And finally comes to micronutrients or microelements, which are typically your iron, zinc, boron, molybdenum, copper and chlorine. So these are microelements which are required in a very small quantity. Then goes nickel, cobalt and some other this thing which are used in protein synthesis. Those are called trace elements. So right now we don't have to provide the primary elements because it is provided by the nature through photosynthesis. So now whatever the fertilizer that is majoritarily used in India is NPK. That is nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, which are called the macronutrients. Recently the awareness was also developed regarding the application of micronutrients and secondary nutrients. So if you take the nutrient efficiency in conventional fertilizers, ground application fertilizers as to say, only 30 to 35% of nitrogen is used up by the plants in the best case scenario. So phosphorus is worse. It could be 10 to 20%. If you apply 1 kg of your fertilizers, only 200 grams might be used by the plants. The rest of it is lost. Either it is complexed in the soil matrix, or it could be leached out into your rivers and streams, which will cause eutrophication and then dying of lakes, algal blooms and other environmental problems. So potassium again about 30-35%. So different nutrients are taken up in a very limited nutrient efficiency in your conventional fertilizers. Nano fertilizers have very high nutrition efficiency. Nitrogen could be as high as 80-85%. Phosphorus is about 90%. So you essentially are tripling your nutrient efficiency. What happens when your nutrition efficiency goes up? You use lesser, right? You typically have to use lesser because your efficiency is very high. So that is one very bright aspect of nanotechnology in agriculture, nano fertilizers. Second is lesser environmental impact. Suppose you think now one company in India has released a product called Nano Urea. It's called IFCO. That's a government-owned company. So they have released Nano Urea, probably one of the first mass nano fertilizers anywhere in the world. So they are claiming that if 500 ml of bottle can replace 50 kg of urea. So 500 ml can replace 550 kgs. Imagine urea is a very fast-acting formulation, very fast-acting nitrogen fertilizer. It will be lost in a few days. It would be in the soil for a few days, maybe 2 days. So imagine if there is a rain event when you apply your fertilizer, when a farmer applies a fertilizer. So almost all the nitrogen would be lost into it. Goes below your rhizosphere, which is your soil root zone, and then it could be leached out into the rivers and lakes, which would cause eutrophication. How many people know eutrophication? Okay, eutrophication. Yeah. Okay, but you just general know it's dying of the lakes. Either it is phosphorus limited or nitrogen limited. It could be anything, but major cause is the input of farming fertilizer that is entering into our lake system. That's a huge impact world over because you are losing your fresh water supplies, which is only 1% of the overall water supply that we have on the surface of Earth. So as I mentioned, it is lower quantity. As I said, it is only 500 ml replacing 50 kg. So now we are taking up bulk quantity. Bulk quantity means higher transportation costs, higher manufacturing costs. So when you are using nano fertilizers, you are going to eventually cut down on transportation and manufacturing this thing. Manufacturing is still an unknown. We don't know how much it is going to cost because right now it is very expensive to produce nanomaterials. In our lab settings, we are getting to gram. Nobody has gone to kg level of production. Even in the industry side, they are claiming 2-3 kgs. So we have to go for the ton scale manufacturing of nanoparticles to become mainstream. So it is very expensive right now, but in the longer run, if the technology matures, one of the hope is that transportation would be cut down. That means in a country like India, you import of your fuels, and then you also save on the cost of the fertilizers because you have to produce only so much. So these are the users of nano fertilizers. The industry is expecting, the farmers are expecting this is the returns when we are going to use the nano fertilizers. So nano fertilizers could be of different types. These are the two major things that the industry is looking in India. One is polymer coated nano fertilizers. That means you have a regular fertilizers that is coated with a nano polymer. So you take up your urea, you coat with a nano polymer, and then you apply it to your soil. So because of the nano particles in it, it would become more sustainable. So instead of staying in the soil for 2 days, it would remain in the soil for 20 days or 30 days. So the efficiency or the longevity of your fertilizer increases. Once you have a longevity, so the crop duration, you use much less of the fertilizer. This is going to be a huge impact in a country like India where we don't have the delivery systems like a drip irrigation or fertigation kind of a thing. In rural areas, this could be a major impact for a country like India if we can coat our fertilizers with, and these are the things that we, that is not alien to India, because previously urea is also a major raw material to a lot of industries, chemical industries. So government is giving subsidies, the industry people are procuring urea from outside and using it as raw material at a discounted price, which was supposed to go to the farmers. As soon as the present government, Narendra Modi's government came in 2014, they quoted this urea with neem, so that it became useless for the industry people. They have to buy at the market rate, and the farmers have to get the neem coated urea, which reduced the fertilizer use by 30%. So this was a major impact for the agriculture industry. So right now, if you can coat that instead of neem, if you can coat that with nano materials, polymers basically, so it could still have a higher effect. So this is true for all the major macronutrients and micronutrients, which are ground application. The second one is Nanox Encapsulation. You have copper nanotubes. So you put your fertilizers into your nanotubes and spray. So that will probably taken up by the stomatal opening in your leaves, be there for a longer time, and because of the encapsulation, it would release on a sustained release way. So that your again foliar fertilizers, you'll be using it in a very sustained time bound manner, so that you again use it a little lesser. So there are other things in nano encapsulation. You not only can encapsulate your fertilizers, you can also encapsulate your pesticides and insecticides. So now we are talking in kgs, 50 kgs to 500 ml. So in foliar fertilizers, we are using using it a couple of ml per liter. So that is going to change even drastically. We are going to use much lesser of it. So application of nano fertilizers. How we are going to apply the nano fertilizers? One biggest area, and already in the field, is foliar sprays. You put your nano fertilizers into water and you spray on the foliage of the plants. So why foliage of the plants? Why spray? Because photosynthetic activity mainly happens in the leaves. That is the kitchen of a plant system. So you give your nutrient directly into the kitchen, it is easily corrected within the system. So this foliar spray is going to be the primary way of delivering nano fertilizers, at least in the foreseeable future. This nano urea is also recommended for foliar sprays. It is not a replacement for your ground application fertilizers. So foliar application of nano fertilizers is going to be an immediate impact, wherein you are going to use nano fertilizers to make fast corrections within the plant systems. The second one is aerosol spray. This is more of a research oriented this thing. You have a aeroponics. Anybody heard of aeroponics? It's just growing plants in air without the use of soil or any substrate. You just hang up your plants in air and you spray mist of nutrient in the air, so the plant takes up all the roots and everything, all the leaves takes up that spray and then they grow. So it's a very fast way of growing without any decision. In a room like this, you hang up your plants and you just mix your nutrient solutions and the plant grows. So it is devoid of any disease or any pesticide load in the plant. So this is more of a research one. There they can very effectively use this nano sprays. So the other one is hydroponics. Hydroponics is soilless culture where you use nutrient solution to grow your plants. So there'll be your nutrient solution going continuously. You keep your roots a part of your root, plant takes up. So there also hydroponics, they can use very little of these nano fertilizers and grow very effectively. Finally, it's a ground application that is a challenge because that is where the bulk of our fertilizer application is going. As I said, nano coated fertilizer is just an initial thought that the industry is looking. Maybe in the longer run they come up with a technology wherein they can introduce probably the nano material in itself. So how they are going to synthesize nano materials is something is a question probably everybody want to know. One is you take up a bigger block of your nanoparticles, you then shred it up to smaller pieces. That's physical way, very expensive, energy intensive way. So that it is not the way industry is looking. Second one is chemical synthesis of your nano fertilizers. So chemical synthesis of your nano fertilizers is one of the way that the industry is looking, but it also uses a lot of solvents and carcinogenic chemicals. So that is also probably not the way. Finally is the biochemical pathways, fermentation and other things where you can grow these nanoparticles at industrial scales. So I've seen a couple of studies where they are doing exceedingly well in producing nanoscale materials. Producing nanoscale materials is just one part of the challenge. Once you have your nanoscale particles, it is very important to have them in nanoscale during the formulation and during the transportation. Even during the application, it has to remain in nanoscale. Otherwise, if it comes to macro scale, then you don't have the effect of nano. So having a stable nano solution or emulsions is probably the biggest challenge we have. Right now, if you put any nano fertilizer into your soil, the humic particles, what humic particles are in the soil? Basically, when you have your waste, it gets into compost. Compost has a lot of humus. Over a period of time, that becomes humic acid. These humic particles aggregate to your nanoparticles and they become the bigger particles. So the nanoparticles are no longer nano. So that's why the product that has been released in India is used only as foliar fertilizers, not as ground fertilizer. So ground application is a challenge. Maybe in the future they might come up with technologies where they can lessen the load of fertilizer applied and hence contribute to the decreased pollution, water pollution. So advantages, as we have discussed, smaller quantities for sure. That's one of the big things. Since they are very small particles, particularly for foliar solution, very high solubility and high nutrient efficiency. As I said, typically, if you put in grams or in macro stage, 30-35%, that could be increased to about 80-90%. Reduced impact on the environment when you use lesser fertilizers, lesser energy cost, lesser air pollution, and when you use lesser fertilizers, lesser leaching out into your lakes and this thing. Also, lesser use of chemicals means you end up having more microbial life in your soil. More microbials in your soil means better organic carbon. So longevity of your soil increases. Maybe we are able to give a healthier soil to the next generation. That's our responsibility. So finally, controlled release and bioavailability. So when you have this nano-coated fertilizer, regular fertilizers with nano-coating, they adhere to the soil much better. So they are not leached out, and they also release in a very sustained way. So this is very important for controlling the fertilizer usage. So there are limitations which are also very significant. Currently, large scale manufacturing is still a challenge. I don't think any country in the world has gone to a level where they can meet the demands of the industry by nano fertilizers. One of the challenges is the stability of the product. And the second is manufacturing in such a scale. We don't have the manufacturing, it's probably 3 to 4 years away. So limited information on human impact, how nano fertilizers are going to impact us. That's a very important question. Ultimately, any technology come. So it is what we care about is the human impact. To a lesser extent, environmental impact. That is always takes a backstage. But human impact, what is the human impact? See, we are talking about a billionth of a meter, very small particles. So if you give it to a farmer, when he sprays, due to the wind, he might be exposed to it. So the nano fertilizer. So it could get into your sweat pores and get into your body very easily. So this is okay if it is a harmless fertilizer like urea. Suppose you are spraying heavy metal like iron, copper. This could get into your kidneys very easily. So this is one of the reasons why even the developed nations are not very aggressive on promoting nano fertilizers on a mass scale, because no farmer would put on a PPE kit and go for his agriculture spray. So this is a very important topic, but also very valid to Indian scenario, because our farmers are very poor people. They are the weakest sections of society. We are taking the highest technology and giving the poorest section of the society, not knowing what is the effect on them. So this is a very big policy decision that has to have a lot of data. That's why the formulations that are given to the farmers should be safe, where they are not exposed to a lot of uncertainty. So very tight manufacturing control. The nanometer, if you have a formulation that is supposed to work in 10 nanometers, if your formulation is 50 nanometers, the efficiency is gone. So this efficiency of dealing with very small particles, whether we have the quality control, is the biggest question of the formulation in order to be effective. So finally, in today's price, it's very expensive to produce all of these things. That's why it's only, why your mobile phones cost so much, why your digital cameras, high-end digital cameras cost so much, why your microscope and everything costs so much, is because they are using a lot of nano coating on your glass, nano coating on your sensors. These are the things that is increasing the cost of your products. So right now in agriculture, it is getting very costly. So we, as I mentioned earlier, 500 ml of urea, nano urea is replacing 50 kgs of your one bag of urea. So the cost of 500 ml of urea, nano urea, is costing as much as 50 kgs of urea. So the cost advantage as of now is not there. Maybe when we increase the capacity of our production, maybe the efficiency will increase and the cost will come down. So this is all, as the industry perspective, as from a farmer's perspective, in India, this is all, we are interested in. It's such a huge field, new developments come. So industry changes. So this is about nanotechnology as I know it. So if you have any questions, you can, throw it at me. No questions? Madam?
Phosphate efficiency. They say that PSD producing well fertilizer is very good. People have been trying. Some of the farmers have.
I myself produce a lot of PSBs, madam. It is very effective, but as any microbes, you need to have certain conditions in your soil. One is moisture, the second one is organic carbon. So if you can give me a good organic carbon and moisture in our soil, we can reduce the use of phosphorus by 50% straight away. So one of the problems in India is, in order to have a healthy soil, you need to have about 1.5 to 2% of organic carbon in your soil. That means about 20 to 30 grams of organic carbon in every kg of soil. In India, average is about 0.3. So we have a very long way to go for increasing our soil organic carbon. If you fix your soil organic carbon, even nanotechnology wouldn't probably deliver the results that your organic carbon would deliver. So that's a long-term game. That's also in the farmer's hand. So one of the reasons why a country like India, with so much of history, is survived because of soil. We always had cows in our houses, lots of them. We used to fertilize them. Our problem was never soil fertility. Our problem was always the infrastructure that we didn't have to take our produce to the market. We didn't have the roads. We didn't have the vehicles. So soil fertility was never a question for our previous, 3 generations back. As you said, I also showed you the graph. In 90s, 50s, only nitrogen was lacking. That was not a serious deficiency. Now we are lacking in everything. So you can integrate, a lot of these things and see the overall picture. Definitely, ma'am, PSPC is one big, aspect of soil fertility. But again, it's also from the farmer side that they need to understand. So, any questions? Please.
As a farmer, you have to know use material. ಅಕಸ್ಮಾತ್ ಆಗಿ ಬೆಡ್ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ನ ಬರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ 2 days ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಬೆಡ್ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ನಾವು 3 kg ಇರುವಂತಹ ಇದನ್ನ 100 ml ಕಂಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಅವಾಗ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಹೆವಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಈಗ 100 ml ಕಂಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಅದು ಬಂದಾಗ ನಾವು ಸ್ಪ್ರೇ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಲಿಕ್ವಿಡ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಪ್ರೇ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ಸ್ಪ್ರೇ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ
ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರ್ ಇಲ್ಲದವರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ?
ಅದು ಬರ್ನ್ ಆಗೋದು ತುಂಬಾ ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಅಥವಾ ಅದನ್ನ
ನೋಡಿ, ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಏನು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಯಾಕೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸರ್ 50 kg 500 ml ಕಂಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಈಗ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ನಾವು ಚಪಾತಿ ತಿಂತೀವಿ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್. ಒಂದು ಚಪಾತಿ ತಿನ್ನಕ್ಕೆ ನಂಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅದೇ ಚಪಾತಿನ ನಾನು 25 ಪೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ತಿನ್ಬೋದು. ಬಾಯಾರಿಕೆ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಗಂಟಲು ಒಣಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ಚಪಾತಿ ಇಡಿಯಾಗಿ ತಿನ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ತುಂಬ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೇ ಬಾಯ ಒಣಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದೇ ಗಂಟಲಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸಣ್ಣ ಪೀಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಗ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಅಸಿಮ್ಯುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ವೆರಿ ಸಿಮಿಲರ್ ಫೆನಾಮಿನಲ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ಸ್. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಇದು ಎಷ್ಟು ಸಣ್ಣ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಕೊಡೋದು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನು ಹಾಕಿದಾಗ, ಯೂರಿಯಾ ಹಾಕಿದಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಇದಿಲ್ದಾಗ ಅದೇನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಸೂರ್ಯನ ಕಿರಣಕ್ಕೆ ಅದು ಅಮೋನಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಆಗಿ ಅಮೋನಿಯಾ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಅಮೋನಿಯಾ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗೋ ಹೀಟಿಗೆ ನಮಗೆ ಬರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ರೂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸತ್ತೋಗಿ, ಅಂದರೆ ಫೀಡರ್ ರೂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸತ್ತೋಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತವೆ. ಆ ಫೀಡರ್ ರೂಟ್ಸ್ ಸತ್ತೋದಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಬಾಯಿ ಇರಲ್ಲ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟಿಗೆ ತೊಗೊಳಕ್ಕೆ ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಿಯೆಂಟ್ಸ್ನ, ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಕ್ರಾಪ್ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ನೀವು 50 kg ಯೂರಿಯಾನ ನೀವು ಕಂಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು 500 ml 1 ಎಕರೆಗೆ ಹಾಕಿದರೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಲ್ ಅದು ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ನೀವು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಫೋಲಿಯರ್ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್. ಫೋಲಿಯರ್ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಗ ಇನ್ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಬೆನಿಫಿಷಿಯಲ್. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಅದು ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಫೋಟೋಸಿಂಥೆಟಿಕ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಫೀಡರ್ ರೂಟ್ಸ್ ಇಂಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ನಮಗೆ ಈ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ನಿಂದ ನಮಗೆ ಅನುಕೂಲನೇ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ. ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಆಗೋ ಚಾನ್ಸಸ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಹಸ್ ಬೀನ್ ಟ್ರೈಡ್ ಔಟ್ ಇನ್ 11,000 ಲೊಕೇಶನ್ಸ್ ಅಕ್ರಾಸ್. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಸೇಫರ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮೇನ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಫಾರ್ಮರ್ ಸೇಫ್ಟಿ ಇದೆಯಾ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಬಿಗರ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್. ಸರ್, ಅದೇ ಬಿಗ್ಗೆಸ್ಟ್ ನಮಗೆ ಹೋಪ್ ಇರೋದು. ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಮೋದಿ ಅವರು ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ವೀಕ್ಲಿ ಡ್ರೋನ್ ಇಸ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಚೇಂಜ್ ದ ಫೇಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಬಿಗ್ಗೆಸ್ಟ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಹಿ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಇನ್ ಹಿಸ್ ಮೈಂಡ್ ಇಸ್ ಈ ನ್ಯಾನೋ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸರ್ಸ್ನ ನಾವು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು, ಡ್ರೋನ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಫಾರ್ಮರ್ನ ಸೇಫ್ ಆಗಿಟ್ಕೊಂಡು. ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಅದು ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಸರ್. ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಯುರೋಪ್ನಲ್ಲೂ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಸರ್. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಔಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್.
ಇದನ್ನ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಡ್ರೋನ್ ಇದ್ದವ್ರು ಮಾತ್ರ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ
ಸರ್. ಡ್ರೋನ್ ಇದ್ದವ್ರು ಹಾಕಿ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್. ಡ್ರೋನ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂದರೆ, ಈಗ ನನ್ನೊಂದು ಕಂಪ್ನಿ ಇದೆ, ನಾನೊಂದು 25-50 ಡ್ರೋನ್ ಇಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀನಿ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ 1 ಎಕರೆ ಇದೆ, ನೀವು 1 ಎಕರೆಗೆ 5 ನಿಮಿಷ 10 ನಿಮಿಷದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಸ್ಪ್ರೇ ಮುಗಿಸ್ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ. ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಒಂದು 250 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಪರ್ ಅವರ್ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ಸು ಚಾರ್ಜಿಂಗ್ ಬಂದಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಡ್ರೋನ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿರೋ ಕಂಪ್ನಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಫೀಲ್ಡಿಗೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಡ್ರೋನ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಒಬ್ಬ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಷಿಯನ್ ಇರ್ತಾನೆ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ನ ನೀವು ಅವ್ನಿಗೆ ಕೊಡಬೇಕಷ್ಟೇ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಕವರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಒಂದಿಟ್ಟು ಡಿಸ್ಕೌಂಟ್ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ. ಈ ಇನ್ಫ್ರಾಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್. ಸೊ ಅವಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಫಾರ್ಮರ್ಸ್ ಸೇಫ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ಸಣ್ಣ ಟೈಮ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಲಾರ್ಜರ್ ಏರಿಯಾ ಕವರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಇವತ್ತು ಯಾವುದೇ ಫಾರ್ಮರ್ ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಗಟ್ಟಿ ಮಂಚ ಅಂದರೂ ಒಂದು ದಿವಸಕ್ಕೆ 2 ಎಕರೆ 3 ಎಕರೆ ಅವ್ನು ಸ್ಪ್ರೇ ಮಾಡೋ ಅಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಗೆ ಸಾಯಂಕಾಲದ ಅಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಗೆ ಸುಸ್ತಾಗಿ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಸೊ ಅವನು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಏರಿಯಾ, ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಡೆ ಚಿಕ್ಕಮಗಳೂರಿನಲ್ಲಿ 100 ಎಕರೆ ಕಾಫಿ ತೋಟ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, 500 ಎಕರೆ ಇದೆ, 1000 ಎಕರೆ ಇದೆ. ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಯುಯಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಸ್ಪ್ರೇ ಮಾಡೋದು ತಿಂಗಳುಗಟ್ಟಲೆ ತಗೋತಾರೆ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಸ್ಪ್ರೇನ. ಸೊ ಈ ಡ್ರೋನ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ ಬಂದು ನಮಗೆ ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟು ಈ ಫಾರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಟಪ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕಷ್ಟ ಇದೆ, ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಟ್ರೀಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅಡ್ಡ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಈ ಪ್ಯಾಡಿ, ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟಾರ್ಗೆಟ್ ಪ್ಯಾಡಿ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಕ್ರಾಪ್ಸ್, ಟೊಮೆಟೊ, ಚಿಲ್ಲಿ, ಈ ಥರದ್ದೆಲ್ಲದನ್ನು ತುಂಬ ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕವರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು.
ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಗಂಗಾವತಿ ಸೈಡೆಲ್ಲ ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ಸ್ ಹೊಡಿಯೋಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತಾನೆ ಇರುವಂತೆ. ಯಾರು ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಓನರ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ರು ಅವರೇ ಮನೇಲಿ ಇದ್ದವ್ರು ಅವರೇ ಹೊಡಿತಾರಂತೆ. ಅವರೇ ಒಬ್ರು ಯಾರು ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಜಾಬ್ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡೋದು ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬ ತಮ್ಮ ಹೊಡಿತಾರೆ.
ಸರ್, ಆ ಥರ ಪೆಸ್ಟಿಸೈಡ್ ಲೋಡ್ ಅವ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಬಿದ್ದಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಪೇಪರಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿತ್ತು ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ತಿಂಗಳಿಂದ, farmers ಯಾವ್ದು ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಸಿದ್ರು ವೆರಿ ಹೈ ಎಲಿವೇಟೆಡ್ ಝೋನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಪೆಸ್ಟಿಸೈಡ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಇಂಪ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ ಇದು ಪೆಸ್ಟಿಸೈಡ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ವಿ ನೀಡ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ಸ್, ಬಟ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ಸ್ ಇದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ವರ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರಬಾರ್ದು. ಸೊ ಒಂದು ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ವೇ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು ಸರ್. Sir, this generation is going to probably see highest usage of chemicals. Next generation ಇಂದ ಅದ್ರ ಯೂಸೇಜ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬೇಕು ಅಷ್ಟು ಮಾತ್ರ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಕಲಿಯುತ್ತೆ. 50s to 70s 80s ಗ್ರೀನ್ ರೆವಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಬೇಕಿತ್ತು, ನಮ್ಮ ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಫೀಲ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಿತ್ತು, ನಾವು ಕೊಡಬೇಕಿತ್ತು. ಅವಾಗ ಎಲ್ಲ ರೂಲ್ಸ್ನು ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ ಅಂಡ್ ಪ್ರೈಟ್ಲಿ ಸೊ. ಬಟ್ ನೌ ಎ ಟೈಮ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಕಮ್ ವೇರ್ ವಿ ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಈಟ್ ಹೆಲ್ದಿ ಫುಡ್. How many of you are willing to pay more to eat healthy food, organic food? Where are looking at you ask yourself. That is what I used to do. So the problem is going forward, your money doesn't count if you don't have health. So health is very important. So our awareness bandirodrinda all these things are going to take off in a big way in the coming days. So no other questions? Ready?
Sir, as you showed the graph.
Kannadadalli maatadi.
Sir, you graph ತೋರಿಸಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಡಿಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂಡ್ ಸಾಯಿಲ್ ಮಿನರಲ್ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಡಿಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಹಂಗೆ ನ್ಯಾನೋ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸರ್ಸ್ ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್ ವಿಷನ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಡಿಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಗೋದು ಅಂಡ್
ಅದು ನೋಡಿ ಇದು ಏನಾಗಿತ್ತು 60s ಡಾಟಾ ಇಂದ 2000 ತನಕ ಡಾಟಾ. 60s ನಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಸೈಂಟಿಸ್ಟ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಆ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಕೇಳಿದವನು ಹುಚ್ಚ ಅನ್ನೋರು, ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಅದೇನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಈಗ 60s ನಿಂದ ನಮಗೆ 2000 ತನಕ ಯಾಕೆ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸರ್ ಎಫಿಷಿಯನ್ಸಿ ಡಿಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸರ್ ಡಿಫಿಷಿಯನ್ಸಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿದೆ? ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅ ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಕ್ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಸಾಯಿಲ್. ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಕ್ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಿಯೆಂಟ್ ಹೋಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಕೆಪಾಸಿಟಿ ಅಂಡ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಹೋಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಕೆಪಾಸಿಟಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ಮಣ್ಣಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ಪೋಷಕಾಂಶನ ಹಿಡಿದಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಮತ್ತು ನೀರನ್ನ ಹಿಡಿದಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕೆ ತುಂಬ ಸಹಾಯ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ನಾವು ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ ಹಾಕಿ 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 ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಕ್ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಣ್ಣಲ್ಲಿ ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಿಯೆಂಟ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಈ ಗೊಬ್ಬರನ ಹಿಡಿದಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ಕ್ರಾಪಿಗೆ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಾವು ಹಾಕ್ತಾನೇ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಬಟ್ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸರ್ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್ ರೇಷಿಯೋ. ಸೊ ಅದು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ನಮಗೆ. ಅಟ್ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ಟೈಮ್ ನಮಗೆ ಇದ್ರದ್ದು ಲಾಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಿಯೆಂಟ್ ಸಾಯಿಲ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇದೆರಡಕ್ಕೂ ಒಂದು ಆನ್ಸರ್, ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ಸಾಯಿಲ್ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಕ್ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್. ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು? ಹಟ್ಟಿ ಗೊಬ್ಬರ ಹಾಕಬೇಕು, ಗ್ರೀನ್ ಲೀವ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕಬೇಕು, ಬೆಳಿಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಸಣ್ಣ ಸಾಯಿಲ್ನ ಸನ್ಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ ವೆರಿ ಬಿಗ್ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಇನ್ ಆರ್ ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರ್. ಯು ಡೋಂಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ಸಾಯಿಲ್ ಟು ಯುವರ್ ಸನ್. ಎಲ್ಲ ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಿಯೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ವಾಲಟೈಸ್ ಆಗಿ, ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಕ್ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ವಾಲಟೈಸ್ ಆಗಿ ನಮಗೆ ಹಾಳಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಸರ್ ಮಣ್ಣು. ಎಲ್ಲ ರೈತರು ಮಕ್ಕಳೇ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ನೋಬಡಿ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ಮಿಡಲ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ವೈಟ್ ಕಾಲರ್ಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎನಿ questions regarding this? No, nobody wants to become a farmer. Yes,
what are the chances that these nano fertilizers might lead to toxicity in the plant, not in the fruit, but in the plant?
that is one question that they are looking into. When you spray, that might form a coating on your stomata itself, not allow the other things to go or water to respire. So that is one of the things that they are looking into it. So far the advantages of nano fertilizers far outweigh the disadvantages of nano fertilizers. So that is one aspect that might, that has already come up. But they are looking for solutions. That is all I know. ನೀವು ಜೋರಾಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಕು. Graphene or carbon nanotubes. I'm talking about copper, not copper nanotubes, graphene nanotubes, carbon nanotubes. But you are using in nanograms, so the ability to use that and get rid of the system is very easy. They are not seeing very high toxicity when even copper, it is a micronutrient. In our agriculture, we are using it in milligrams. So if you are going to use it in nanograms, it is going to be a very small fraction of what we are using today. So that aspect of it is very negligible compared to the kind of toxicity, copper toxicity that we are seeing in our soils, because a lot of fungicides are coming from copper-based chemicals. Copper sulfate is widely used, copper oxychloride is very used. So these are, people mix 2 kgs of carbon oxychloride or, copper sulfate and drench your plant. Imagine the kind of toxicity that you are seeing in the roots. In spite of that, the plant is surviving. So nano scale of application, the toxicity, challenge is much lesser, because you're using very, very little of it. So that is what probably, they are driving the scientists in a big way towards nano. So, any more questions? Or madam, like next start. You madam, no questions. So we'll move to the next.
This is IFCO people, IFCO India.
Yes, sir.
Does they have done toxicological studies and all those things?
Sir, they have done they have collaborated with KVKs, 11,000 locations. They have done across crop. I'm pretty sure they have done toxicology studies and found out that nitrogen in itself is not very toxic to human system. That's why they have released only urea. Nothing which is related to metals has come out. You don't have copper, you don't have iron, you don't have zinc, you don't have molybdenum. All these things they have kept out, calcium and other things. So they want to, first introduce and, the kind of subsidy the government is giving on urea, they want to get rid of it. So use the foreign exchange for better purpose. So that's probably a very strategic move, and also it is going to fetch them a lot of money, save them a lot of money.
So why did they start with the foliar instead of the ground application?
Good question. Because foliar, as I said, your leaf is your kitchen in your plant. So anything raw material that you provide has to come into your kitchen for it to become food. So you are directly applying your nutrients into the food, delivering it to your kitchen. If you put it in your soil, a lot of energy is spent by the plant to take it up to your kitchen. So first it has to suck up by the roots. So root cannot directly accept. It has to secrete root exudates. They will attach themselves and take it into your root. From the root it has to travel to your plant through phloem. So a lot of energy expenditure is there. So energy expenditure means stress to the plant. So if you are directly delivering it to your source of your food formation, it becomes all the more easier. And also the concentration of, because once you put your fertilizer in your soil, a lot of these are going to get complex in the soil. They are going to become biounavailable. So once you have this small amount of fertilizer going, so you have a better response from the plant. So we move to the next section. So this is all about nano fertilizers. Haraprasad sir had told me that you have to say something. So this is my internet research and my own experience. So hopefully you have learned something new. Use it or you might not use it, but learning should always be there. So in Chikmagalur, so this is still working on majorly on soil microbiology in general, and with the help of a few scientist friends, we are also looking at biotechnology in a very limited way as of now. So this is our main production building. This is our lab. So these are the fermenters that we use. So this is a 700 liter fermenter. So this is a smaller fermenter. We call it as a seed fermenter. The seed fermenter we inoculate the bigger fermenters to produce biofertilizers and other things. So let me just talk about our journey. This is why I had come here. So as I said, 15, 16 years ago, I was one among you. So I did my engineering in Chikmagalur. So from environmental engineering, it was one of the only colleges in Karnataka which had environmental engineering. So only 4 colleges were there. My ranking was not good enough to come into this college. So I settled in my hometown. So after my engineering, I didn't know what to do. Somebody told me that you could make a lot of money if you have MS. So I did my GRE. I got good scores, got a scholarship from US University. So I went to Texas Tech, that is my second university. So I did my masters. So one of the few opportunities that I got was to work with very high caliber scientists. So I was a research assistant, so that means I don't have to pay fees. So the university was in turn paying for me. That's like a dream. But it was not a dream because my professor was a very, very, hard-working guy, and they used to push us to the limits. But I learned a lot there. So during our internship, so I was exposed to this environmental microbiology. Was one of the subjects was environmental microbiology. So my thesis was on a different topic. One of the students, PhD students, was working on bioreactors, to treat this wastewater. So these bioreactors used a lot of this microbiology, anaerobic digestion, aerobic digestion, and all those things. So whenever that PhD students was fed up, he used to put his work on me along with my work. So I hated it back then. So I didn't want to do his work, but I was forced to do his work. All Indian student does this. So if anybody is going abroad, and if anybody going to research line, remember that you are going to do a dog's work. So that is how you get your masters. And if you want to be a bigger dog and a badder dog, you get your PhD. So that's how I see it. Nothing wrong in being a dog, but something you should know. So once there was also a project which was a NASA project in our university, which was an ongoing project. So their whole work was to compress the quantity of water that they take into space. So general rule of thumb is 1 pound of substance to take into space costs you $1 million. So you take 1 liter of water, that costs you probably $1.5 million. So they wanted to take little of it and reuse it for the entire duration of their space exploration. So one of the things they used to do, your entire water cycle takes about 1 year. So you have your water coming from your gutter. So in order to become pure water for drinkable water, it takes about 1 year in the natural form. So their aim was to condense it to 1 day. That is 24 hours. So they were using a lot of this biological system. And my PhD friend was also working on it. So I was exposed to all these bioreactors, and so my intention was never to enter anything related to biology because I was an engineer, so I used to design other things. So after my MS, I started working in a company called CS2M. It's an engineering company. Anybody been to Mumbai Airport? So in Mumbai Airport, recent renovation has been done by the project managers for CS2M. It's a very big engineering company in US, very reputed ones. They also have done Panama Canal, which is one of the marvel engineering feats that mankind has seen. So I was doing my job. So my wife was a software engineer back in Bangalore. So we never used to be together. So she used to come on very short assignments in a different city. So one of our earnings used to go for flight tickets. So we were never, been together. Then I took a project management course in University of California. So that changed my mindset. So then I started thinking, why should I do this job rather than me going back and doing something on my own? But something was not very clear. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but the urge was there that I wanted to do something. So once we got the confirmation that my wife is not going to get H1, she was always coming on B1 visa, which was valid for 6 months. So for longer duration, you need to have H1 or L1. So our company refused to give her H1, and then I decided to come back to India. So after coming back to India, we tried a few projects, failed, learned a lot of lessons on the way. And then I came in contact with scientists from IIHR. How many of people know IIHR? Circle. So Indian Institute of Horticulture Research. That is a national level institute from ICR. ICR is your Indian Council of Agriculture Research. There are 7 institutes all around India, and one of them is in Bangalore. They are related for horticulture crops. Horticulture crops in the sense your vegetable crops, food crops, and everything. It's a very prestigious university. Looking at my background, one of the scientists, recommended me to open up a biofertilizer unit. They had developed some technologies, and nobody was ready to take the technologies. So for them, I was a guinea pig. So they asked me to take up the technology. So I, deliberated for a while, looked at the, way the fertilizer was working for well over 6 months. Then I decided to take the plunge. Problem was I didn't have money. So all my money was gone in US, so I came empty-handed in India. So, and then, my dad offered me to take a house for getting a loan, securing a loan. So I gave my home as collateral and borrowed the money from the bank. So, and then started. The initial projection was you require only about 10 lakhs to start a, microbiology production lab. But then it went on to become 40 lakhs. So 40 lakhs invested and started producing, but I didn't know how to market because I never sold anything. I was from a professional family background. They were all engineers, doctors, and other things. He was a businessman. So we didn't know how to market our products. So, and then, slowly then we realized that, it is all about convincing the farmers, being honest to your customers. Then we started, marketing ourselves, me going and talking to people. Then I realized, if you go to a customer's place, they are the boss, they won't listen to you. You go to somebody's house or somebody's office, you'll be job seeker sometime soon. So you go to an office, even the watchman scares you. That's a reality. So they won't, give you the respect that you probably deserve. So, this was the rejections. Then I realized that we need to bring these people back to our office for us to convince. When they come to your place, whatever bullshit you say, they will listen. That's the reality. So then we started, placing ourselves where we are research oriented, we have collaborated with the university, and we have very high-end facility. Then slowly people started coming. So one thing led to another. So then we started making good business. So initially my whole idea was to have, to pay my bank EMI, which was about 40,000. I have 20,000 rupees. That's all. So this is all, and then I always used to tell my wife that I need to have just 5 lakhs in my bank account. I'll be very happy. Then we had 5 lakhs. I was not happy. So then it was 15 lakhs, 25 lakhs, like that. Or also then ambitions grew. Nothing wrong in it, but you need to have control over this. So then we started in 2018, we started our new facility, this one. So now closely we have invested about 4 crores to 5 crores on this facility. So now our business also expanded. So, anybody who wants to go through an entrepreneurship as a career, it's a very exciting thing. But you need to take a lot of punches. You should never be afraid of getting hit. So that's when, failures always teach you a lesson that success won't. So, this is very important because normally when you have failures, rejections, you take it into your heart, become emotionally, charged up. But in the longer run, you settle out. So that is one of the things. Some of the things that I learned on my way, these are some of the products that we make. These are biofertilizers. The essence is, an entrepreneurship is tough. Being an entrepreneur is, being like a housewife. You do everything on your own. You manage your kitchen, you manage your child, you take care of your husband, you clean, you cook, you don't have time to sleep. That is what being entrepreneur is. So you have to do your marketing, you have to do your accounts, you have to go to your customer, you have to be in the production to maintain the quality, everything. So it might not be everybody's cup of tea. So some people are not fit to be entrepreneurs, that's okay. Because if everybody wants to become entrepreneurs, who will work for you? So we need to also have workers. But if you have the urge and if you have the means and the ideas to do it, then go for it. But be prepared for a rough ride. So nothing comes easy. So you have to fight for it. Even a single penny, you have to fight for it. The second is don't chase money. I said my targets were, but I never chased money. I just had a dream. Because the moment you chase money, your whole focus is on money. You never really care about your customers. You never really care about your quality. The only aspect that remains is your honesty and your commitment to quality. Nothing can replace these two things. All these technologies come and go. You can always adapt technologies, but you cannot adapt honesty and you cannot adapt quality after a certain time. So initially, only we decided that we need to be not the biggest, but the best quality manufacturers. So that is why we are relatively successful. So this is one of the things that we are very, very proud of. Second thing is always give it back when you have enough money. I know students, not shallow pockets, always borrowing money from whatever source it might be. But in the longer run, when you have money, you also try to give it for the cause that you believe in. It could be anything. So we try to give it back in our own small little way. So that has shown me that when you give back, it always comes back to you in a bigger way. This is my experience. I'm not generalizing this. There are people who might have donated a whole lot of things and died a beggar. But in my own limited way, when we have given, so it has always come back in a bigger way. So that's my probably suggestion for a young student sitting there. So when you have money, you try to give whatever part you want. There is no right amount or right way of donating the cause that you believe in. Finally, no matter of success would replace your family and your health. So keep your health fine. It's a long haul. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So you need to have that health to take you further. So you might have $1 billion in your account and not the time or the health to enjoy. It's still a failure for you. So this is all I wanted to share. Thanks for having me, and thanks for not sleeping and listening to my discussion. Thank you. Okay. Any questions, please? Namge question session. Any questions? Any questions? It's fine. No questions. Jain University ಹೋಗಿದ್ವಿ ನಮಗೆ. Students were very happy, sir. ತುಂಬಾ questions ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು. ನಾನು JC ಭಾರಿ ಜೋರಾಗಿ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೆ ಸರ್. ನಮ್ಮ ಹೇಳಿ ತರನೇ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ.
Probably you should put in more energy than.
No, they learn, sir. Time teaches.
Yeah, very true.
So anything, sir? Anything? Any queries?
He said about his experience as a pursuing his masters. Many of you want to do that his experience would add up.
So when we did our masters, dollars was 44 rupees. Now it has gone to 74 rupees. Okay, that is a big hole in your parents' pocket. If you don't get your scholarship or anything like that, a lot of people don't get. That's a reality. The second thing is, you have to score. I think GRE format has also changed. When we were doing it was 1,600. Now it is around 400, I believe. So I have not kept track of things. So if you want to do masters, I think in a final year you take up your GRE. So GRE English is a major disadvantage for Indians. So we don't know what the word means because we never look up the meanings when we are reading the article. So when we are reading the article, if something hard comes by, we skip that and we make our own judgments. So that's the problem that we face when we are doing, giving it GMAT or GRE exam. TOEFL is very easy. TOEFL is like 10th standard, level English. So I wish you all the best. All your dreams might come true. So thank you again.
Silence here, I would explain it as lot of food given to you, not able to digest. Probably you might get back with questions later once you digest whatever he has to do. So one Kabnat Kadlian Painter, that is what he has digested now. It is the iron ground that he has digested now and standing here before you. It's very, very difficult being an entrepreneur in the beginning. So he has experienced that, gone through all the toughness, and today he is proudly saying you can't count his zero single bank account.
No, sir. I wish.
Definitely, you're almost there. See, that's what as students you should understand here. In the beginning, everything is tough. So I expected one question from all of you. He, like any other engineering student, aspired to go abroad and make his career. Likewise, experienced all that and said, my roots are better, I'll do something here and prosper. And he's successful in that. So you should have asked him, is MS a requirement to become an entrepreneur? Please.
So personally for me, I wanted to do MS. Personally, I wanted to do MS like all Indian students to get more salary. That was my, end goal. You get a master's, you probably, I wrongly thought that, people in the job market would suck you up because you had a master's. That's not wrong. That's not true at all. They only select on basically on your personality. All these HRs are trained to see your personality. Education is just one part of it. So, you get hired or fired based on your personality. Remember this. So, your politeness, your eagerness to learn, all these things matter, not just your technical skills. I've seen, people who have done PhDs now slogging away doing Excel sheets. That's a very pathetic way of, doing, your job. So, you might want to do something that you don't like, that is okay, but you still give it your best chance, best shot. So, for me, as Sir said, being an entrepreneur, being successful, I've seen people who have no formal education, but have excellent common sense, beating us any day, hands down. We feel so small and little in front of them. So education is just one way to understand that you can learn new things. That's the only purpose of education. So if you miss this and you only think that whatever I have learned I'll be going to use for the entire lifetime, you are not going to go far. So you have to learn, unlearn sometimes, you have to learn new things. So being an entrepreneur, being successful, education is probably for a middle class, background people, it might be a big thing, but that is not a necessity. People from very, rural backgrounds with a lot of poverty has prospered beyond, anybody's imaginations. I've seen it. I'm not talking about Adanis or Ambanis or Tatas, and seen people in your own district, small people doing big jobs and gaining that respect. So it all depends on your personality. So give more time to develop your personality. Academics will also be, who cares what marks you had in your 10th marks card? What is of importance is what you are living right now. My 10th mark card would be 100 or 50. Doesn't make any damn difference. It makes a difference when you are in 10th standard. So in the longer spell, your personality matters rather than your marks card. That's what I meant to say. So although better marks would be easy. So, that would probably get you some of the things that you would probably want, a girlfriend maybe.
No, very true. As he said, a girlfriend and a boyfriend you can get only not by your marks, but by your great personality you exhibit. Definitely. That's what we also keep telling in the class. The marks you gain is only until you finish your degree. So we have many examples here in our own college who have even today start earning when they are in their 6th semester. And they have almost become millionaires by the end of their graduation. Many examples we have. If you look around, JCE is one such place wherein you look only in this small niche area. But when you throw your eyes farther, you will see across the college you have many such students who have silently grown. I know many of them. So many of you are also there. So continue that enhancement in culture. That is why we as a department faculty wanted to bring in that experience from the industry. Academicians and like us will only give you that background of what is the kind of thing which is the textbook. Beyond that, that is the experience we wanted to bring in here, and today we are grateful that his experiences shared with you, and his thought process of looking at what is there out for you was really enlightening for all of us. Hope you will utilize what you have gained today in shaping up your career. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming out with the whole team. That really matters. Because at the end of the day, whatever you are, it's the family that matters, which is being with you every time. And that's a great support in everybody's life, which he has exhibited in a very nice manner. Thank you once again. So, finally, all of you join for lunch. And of course, the effort which we have put in making this symposium, organizing symposium, is worthwhile seeing at all your faces. And I also express a lot of appreciations for the support we have received from the department, faculty, staff, everybody, and the organization also. So we'll continue in the afternoon with one more session, which is also very interesting. They have been able to, more questions can be answered because they are already into releasing a product in nanotechnology, nano fertilizers and nano pesticides, and the nation's major persons have released their products. So they are into it. We'll gain more knowledge into that in the afternoon session. So I welcome all of you for lunch now. Hopefully not just enough to keep you sleeping, but have enough to have that enthusiasm to attend the lecture. Thank you.
ಅವರು ಸ್ಪ್ರೇ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತೀವಿ ಅವ್ರು ನಮ್ಮ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ರೆ ನಾಳೆ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ರೆ
Okay, as I said,
ಮೇಡಮ್
ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪೆಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ ರೆಡಿ ಒಂದ್ಸಲ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಬಿಡೋಣ ಲೈವ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೀಮಿಂಗ್ದು OBS ಎಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಲ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಹಾಂ